townspeople are always having fun. Out there in the garden, in the rain and the sun.
So West Leederville, let's put it in context first. West Leederville is an inner city suburb, bit fancy, okay? But West Leederville's on the way to somewhere. West Leederville's on the way to the city and on the way to the beach. But some of us live there. So we've got 3 major roads going through West Leederville. Everyone's speeding to get to the beach or speeding to get to the city. And so it was always, we had a really strong, we're talking back way 2006, 2007. So this is a fair while ago in community garden times. And we had a very strong residents association because we were angry. You know, you get a really strong residents association when you're upset. So we were there always at the council. Why don't you do something about the traffic? The traffic is, the runway, the whole thing. So we changed things in West Leederville. It was great. We slowed the traffic down. And then one day, somebody said, I'm really tired of having arguments all the time with the council. I'm really tired of being angry. What about a community garden? So Peg's ears went up because I'd been loosely associated with City Farm and also closely with Earthwise, which started its garden in 1991. Now this is way back in 2006, so community garden, what a good idea. So I had also been living as a number of the residents. We'd been living there for a long time. So a lot of the residents were also councillors. Okay, so there was communication then. You know, our kids had gone to school together, so they were our neighbours as well. I'm saying this is all putting it in context. So I'd had my eye on a bit of vacant land. It was council land. And then we started the conversation. We talked to the councillors because no councillors, no council staff like to have an idea that falls out of the sky that they haven't heard about. So let's have a talk to them. So in the council, I talked to the sustainability officer. Now I quickly learned that there was a whole lot of different departments in local government. And the sustainability, and again, no disrespect for community development, but they're the soft end of the council. The really important ones are the ones that make decisions about bits of land and roads and gutters and things. They're the building and the infrastructure guys. And at that stage, they were not real keen on giving a bit of land over to the wider community. I say wider community because I think the council is part of the community as well. So the conversations we had were with council staff, and we did not know until we'd been given approval to use this little bit of land that poor person in the sustainability role had a real problem. She was discussing constantly with the wider departments, should we let this group of residents loose on this bit of land? Because we had a problem as local residents of getting people interested in the garden if we didn't actually have certainty about the land. But we didn't have certainty about the land because the council wanted certainty that there was a whole lot of people in the community that would support it, so the chicken and egg thing. So we ended up having a community meeting, which the council required and which we wanted to. What sort of community garden would we have? Would we have one like in the eastern states and in Europe where everyone has their little allotments and they have a little set space to have it and there's lots of rules about it and there's gates and all sorts of things? Or would we have it just a nice little community space, which at that stage City Farm was and Earthwise was too to a certain extent, and also Piney Lakes, those sort of places. It was fairly open, should we? And then the community said, now here we are in inner city Perth. What was happening back then, it was city infill. Remember city infill when it first started, everybody had big blocks, but then the state government said everybody's got to increase the population, and in town of Cambridge it was always the West Leederville end because the other end didn't want to subdivide their blocks, but we subdivided. So people were losing their backyards, or they were losing the sun because people were building 2 stories. So people were a bit interested in a bit of community space. Plus, it was the time when we were a bit interested about where our food was coming from. As Amy was talking about before, we were a bit interested in maybe not having a whole lot of additives that were going into food that we were buying from a commercial venue. So there was a whole lot of things falling in place at the one time. So we decided, yes, we want to have plots, but we also want to have the community space. So a bit like Andy's stuff, wherever Andy's gone, there's he's gone. You have lots of trees and things and your big pumpkins, you put in the big community spaces, but when people want to grow their broccoli and their carrots, they have it in a space there. So now I was really interested, and I still am, in waste. Okay? I want to use waste as a resource. And all the permaculture stuff, of course, you use what you've got. Because a community garden is not just the people in the garden, it's people coming to look. Now, you know, when we look at the Taj Mahal, we say, wow, isn't that amazing? But we don't look at it and say, yeah, I could do that. But when people have a different look in their eye and they come and look at something in the community garden and say, that look means, what could I do at home in my patch? So a community garden might be for people growing things in that space, yes, tick. But if you're local government, it's also taking those ideas back to my own patch, back to my own windowsill, my courtyard, my quarter-acre block, whatever I've got. So there's a whole lot of ways a community garden is a huge educative process. I'm saying this to local government people to give you more ammunition to say that community gardens are really important. Okay, so we got together, we would have allotments and so on, but the council, oh, this is a bit tricky, isn't it? This vacant space that had been vacant for years and years and years, and now this community group want to take it over. So we'll only let you do it for 12 months, and we'll only let you have 12 plots. Okay, so because I was heavily involved there, the council gave us 15 grand, which in those days was a fair bit of money. Nowadays councils often give more money, because I wanted to use, again, let's teach people, use what you've got. So we built our own soil. We used old railway sleepers, we used a whole lot of stuff, mulch, free garden mulch, the sort of stuff that Andy's using in his gardens. We were so frugal, $10,000 of that 15 grand went to replacing a wall, which I think the council should have, a retaining wall, which they should have paid for anyway. But anyway, we were so frugal, we had money left over because we were promised by the councillors, that we could carry that over, but of course we couldn't. Wrong department. So we lost that money.
So where the funding comes from?
So the funding came a little bit from the council at the beginning. The funding comes now just from people with their allotments. Now we just pulled a figure out of the air, I can't remember, I think 4x2 space gives you, I think it's about $140, which is expensive, not in West Leederville because it's a bit fancy, and you can get half a plot as well, but you get all the compost, you get everything, you often get plants and things because people have got extra ones as well. Okay, so the relationship with local government is really good. They fund us through community grants and so on, but again, it's a little bit hidden, so they ended up putting a fence around it because people would turn up in their fancy cars with their big bags and come in and take all the whatever. Okay, that's not community care, that's community rip-off. So they ended up putting the gate around and people felt a bit insecure because it was in a kind of a hidden spot. Right, so the council support us in a lot of ways, and we're pretty well established now. We were given approval after the 12 months to, in fact before 12 months, to finish doing the allotments and increase it. And now Town of Cambridge, you can block your ears here Daniel, now Town of Cambridge call it their community garden, and that's okay. They can take the kudos even though it's the wider community that are managing it all. Let's flick to Earthwise now. In Subiaco, Earthwise Community Garden. Now that is quite a different model. Earthwise, and because the West Leederville Community Garden, how long have I got?
About another 3 minutes.
I can talk really fast. Okay, so the West Leederville Community Garden was a piece of land, and the only thing that we really don't have now, and it has a bore, which is part of a community precinct, and the Town of Cambridge, they pay for our water through that bore. We have a tank, which that bore water, it's very high in iron, it goes through and it oxidises the iron, so we've, get rid of a little bit of it, and we have a water tank just for our water use. But we don't have a building other than a few sheds. Flick to Earthwise in Subiaco, we started off being an old church. Now that actually belongs to the state government, it's been given to the Uniting Church, the whole ground, it's the former Presbyterian church. And it was given to the church to use in perpetuity as long as it's used for church purposes. Now Earthwise, we can, church purposes, easy peasy. So what we got first was the building. We started off having an op shop because it's all based around using wasted resources. Op shops, I mean, they've been around forever. Fantastic places. So the op shop was there. We have a food centre, a little bit like the Cannington thing where we use food from donated places. We have a weekly meal, we've got a whole lot of stuff. In 1991, if anyone's old enough to remember, the former Labor government started up the LEAP scheme, which was the precursor to Work for the Dole. Young people, I think between 17 and 20, were full-time for 6 months. We established the infrastructure at Earthwise because all we had was an old clothesline and some eucalypt trees. Now we've got lots of infrastructure, and we had various Work for the Dole courses over the time. But what we've got now is a group of people. We come in weekly for a just a maintenance thing. We've got millions of worm farms, we've got piles of compost, we've got lots and lots of stuff going on. So people come in and learn, what can I take this information back? People come in and out. We've got part of the garden which is now allotment because Subi, again, city infill, I've got no place to grow things, yes, which are old fridges, and of course old fridges are god ugly, so we've covered them in old wood which came from the council, great relationship. Our original relationship with City of Subiaco was not through approvals and so on, it was because that was through the church. That's another beast, but anyway, they've been very supportive. But the original contact was through the Parks and Gardens people because they would offer us stuff. Oh, we've got some wood in the depot we're throwing out, would you like it? Yes, we would, thank you very much. So we cover the old fridges and the old baths to make them lovely wooden garden beds, because fridges and baths, anyway, so because it's Subi, it's got to be flash. So everything we see, people can see and learn. They can take that information away. Now the relationship with the City of Subiaco, and we have in the past too, there is a lot of homes west. There's Wandana Flats, if anyone's familiar with that inner city area, huge multi-storey area up the end of Subi. We have a strong relationship with them. They've had a little community garden themselves, and we are partly helping them to re-establish that connection. So we are right next to a daycare centre, beautiful relationship. Anyone had kids in daycare, they have eggs every year and they hatch out the chickens. Well, Earthwise have now got an adjoining gate where the daycare kids come and see their chickens, which are now chooks, and have that mutual relationship. So we've got the relationship with the daycare centre, with the school a little bit further on, and with the council as well. So it's gone from Parks and Gardens to community development because we have had a long-standing relationship in the wider community in Subiaco. Because we look like a permaculture garden in Subiaco, my goodness, and we've maintained that because it's friendly. We're just down the road from King Edward. Lots of very pregnant or sad women are coming up to be there. It's a beautiful space to sit in. We do have a little bit of problem with theft, and I call it theft because when you're pulling up in the flash car with the big bag and you're cleaning out all the figs or you're cleaning out all the oranges, that's not sharing. If you're there for a long time doing that, give us a bit of your time. That's what we want in exchange. I've used up my 3 minutes.
You have indeed. You didn't need a PowerPoint at all.
Right hand